Limmy's World of Glasgow.
Vijay! As you can probably tell, I love Dragon's Den. And after that last series there, I looked onto the website and it said, if you have any ideas which are similar or you think you've got a chance and you think you could appear in the programme and pitch, we want to hear from you. So I got in touch. I had a fantastic idea as per usual. I told them all about myself, everything I've done so far, but it's not been my fault that it hasn't worked out. And I sent that off to them, but to be honest, I didn't expect a reply, never mind to actually appear on the show. But I got an email back about 2 weeks ago saying, we want you on the show. They said, could you come down to London in a couple of weeks and present your idea in front of the Dragons? And I said, absolutely, definitely, I can't wait. So there I was, just a few days ago down in London, in the building, in the same building they've used for all the series. And when the time came, the producer said, right, okay, up you go VJ, that's you on now. I said, oh, okay, wish me luck. But they didn't. But I made my way upstairs with my presentation equipment, walked onto the floor, stood in front of the Dragons and began giving my pitch. I can't tell you what the pitch was for, I can't tell you the idea because I can't risk anyone stealing it, but it was an amazing idea and I can't believe I've been wasting my time on everything else. I should have just been doing this from the start. So I was hoping that the Dragons would feel that way as well, obviously. I got through the pitch, I wasn't too nervous because like I said, I feel quite confident and I'm really happy with this idea. And the first one to ask me a question was Duncan Bannatyne, my favourite guy, because he's from Glasgow as well. He's my hero. He said, hi VJ, you're from Glasgow? I said, yes, I am, Duncan. He said, my name's Mr. Bannatyne to you, not Duncan. You don't know me well enough yet to call me that. And for that reason, I'm out. I just stood there looking at him, thinking, when is he going to start laughing? Everyone else is just staring at him, probably thinking the same thing. Is he joking? Peter Jones, at the end, leaned over and looked at him and said, you are joking, are you not, Duncan? But Duncan Bannatyne said, no, I'm not joking. I won't be spoken to like that. Does he think that just because I come from Glasgow, he can address me by my first name? Theo Paphitis said, have you lost your mind, Duncan? But Duncan Bannatyne just waved his hand as if to say, get on with it. I really couldn't understand it. I really don't know what was behind why he done that. And neither could anyone else, but anyway, they did carry on talking about it. Deborah Meaden said, VJ, I love your idea, I love your presentation, and I love your enthusiasm for everything you do. How much investment are you looking for, and how much of a stake are you willing to give away for that? I said, today I am looking for £75,000, and that is for a 25% stake. But obviously in my head I was willing to go up to around 40, even 50% of the stake. But I thought that would be a good starting figure. She said, okay, done. I said, pardon? She says, I'll give you 75,000 for 25%. Yep, okay, let's do it. I couldn't believe my ears. This is fantastic. But Duncan Bannatyne couldn't believe his ears either. He said, Deborah, don't give this guy a penny. Deborah said, why not? And he said, what? He thinks that he can just walk in here, think that just because I'm from Glasgow and I've made it, that he can too. He thinks it's that easy. Who's he to think he's better than everyone else? I said, but Mr. Bannatyne, isn't your new book called Anyone Can Do It? He said, don't you speak to me. You can't speak to me. I've said no. I've said I'm not interested. You're not allowed to speak to me. That's the rules, isn't it? And he looked to the producer to the side. And Richard Farley, the Australian sitting right next to him, said, well, by the same token, Duncan, you're not allowed to speak to us. And I just really pissed Duncan off. He just got up and walked past me, walked behind me, out some door, make sure he drew me daggers on the way past. Honestly, I was just so disappointed in him. I looked up to him so much. And for some reason, he's got in for me. Because I'm from Glasgow. Anyway, I didn't care. I had already secured an investment. I had already been offered far more than what I came here for. But Richard Farley said, okay VJ, sorry about that. I will match Deborah's offer of £75,000, only I'm only after a 20% stake. I was about to say, well, I'm going to have to go with you, Richard, but then Theo chipped in with 100,000 for a 20% stake. But I'll also bring to the table, and he said like X, Y and Z experience in this kind of market. The whole thing was just like a dream. No one ever goes over what you're asking for. But then Peter Jones has topped the whole thing off by saying, now listen to me VJ, you are an amazing guy with an amazing idea. You are going to earn an amazing amount of money out of this, and so is anyone who gets involved with you. And that is why I am telling you right now, VJ, I will be anyone's offer by offering you 10 grand more for 1% less of a stake than they're after. Deal? Well, obviously the rest of the Dragons couldn't beat that because Peter Jones is absolutely loaded. I said, okay, it's a deal. And everyone got out of their seat and came over and shook my hand, and Peter Jones did obviously, but everyone was just so happy for me. Patting me in the back and giving me their cards and saying, we should get together, me and you could go a long way. I just couldn't believe it was all happening. And then I heard some footsteps behind me on the wooden floor, and everyone looked over my shoulder. I turned around, and there was Duncan Bannatyne standing practically nose to nose with me, and his breath was stinking of whiskey. He said, who the fuck do you think you are anyway? There's only one cunt big enough to make out of that fucking shithole of Glasgow, and that's me. But thankfully that's all he had to say, because he headed off downstairs the way I came up, and that let me get back to the celebrations. You know, all the arguments with my hero, it took my attention off how great everything had went. I couldn't even remember what stake I gave away, and for what cost. I just knew that finally I was going to be rich and successful and happy, and it was just brilliant. And I went downstairs and had an interview with a guy, you know, the guy who's got a bit of a squint. He looks like he's looking at your left ear when he's speaking. And he was really nice, just telling me, do you know that no one has ever been offered an offer over what they asked for? You're amazing, Vijay. I felt so humble and so grateful, and I got out of the studio. Second I got out, I phoned my dad. I said, Dad, wait till you hear this. He said, how did it go, son? I said, Dad, they loved it. They loved the idea. They love me. They've invested. And it was Peter Jones who invested at the richest out of the lot. He wants hardly any stake for an absolute fortune. And my dad was saying, I knew you would do it finally, Vijay. I can't wait to tell the rest of the family. You've made me so proud. And then a few days later, I got a phone call. It was the BBC. They said, hi, is that you, Vijay? I said, aye, it is. Is everything okay? They said, yes, we just want to speak to you about something. It's about your appearance on the show. I said, yes. They said, well, really sorry about Duncan Bannatyne, Vijay. I said, it's okay. They said, well, it's not okay because we've let him go. We've got the whole thing in camera, and our bosses are actually sick to the back teeth of him. So he's out. I said, okay, but is everything okay with Peter? Is he still wanting to go ahead with the deal? They said, no, the deal's absolutely going ahead. Well done, Vijay. What I'm phoning for is because Duncan Bannatyne has left a space in the Dragon's Den. We were thinking of putting someone who is up and coming in his seat, in his place, you know, just temporarily until the end of the series. That'll be another 4 programmes. So we were thinking of you, Vijay. I said, you're joking? Me? He said, yeah, you're up for the VJ. I mean, obviously you don't have the money yet to give away, but you won't be on that basis. You'll be just there purely to give your advice and give your feedback to the people presenting their ideas. We just thought you were so enthusiastic and so inspirational to anyone watching or anyone appearing. I said, I would absolutely love to do that. And they said, okay, all we need to do is just get you down here next week for a few days. That's how long it takes to film it. I said, okay, I look forward to hearing from you. And he said, okay, goodbye, speak to you later. I gave my dad a call. I told him, I said, you're not going to believe it. I told him the whole news, and he said, VJ, this has to be the happiest day of my life. Get round to my house tonight at, let's say, 7 o'clock. We're going to have a party. And that night, I got ready, I headed round at 7 o'clock, and half my family was there, all the family I let down. And there was tears, and there was music, and there was dancing, and everyone was shouting my name. And it's happening, it's all happening, and everyone was so happy for me, and I'm just, oh, brilliant, it was just fantastic, and I was so happy, and everyone was so happy for me, and I've made it, and finally I've got somewhere I've wanted. It's just only the beginning for me. And Peter Jones gave us a call saying, I heard the good news, and I'm really looking forward to working with you on Dragon's Den and with your project. And he was saying hello to everyone in the speakerphone, and it was just a big party, and it just lasted about 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was just brilliant, everything was absolutely brilliant.